So I decided to go to college and education, which I did.
That's what a 50 cal looks like right out of place.
That's like amazing. Yeah, we never.
He's got a spine.
Oh, I see him.
Kind of like this.
What's that? 30-06. 30-06. Yeah, man, I wouldn't, man.
Got a box.
Looks down that wall.
Yeah, just slow it down. We got all day. Not your side.
See that one down there?
I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's how it is. Smoke, I got smoke. Wait there. I throw some of that funky wood on it. And it doesn't burn. Well, you don't want flames, that's for sure. All you have to do is smoke. Smoke, what it does is it permeates through the skin and seals the fibers in the loose state. So if it get wet, the fibers won't glue back together. When I'm done, I got a green level that does the fiber membrane and you have to turn this off.
You want me to hold yours?
This is how we went to Cuba. Cuba. That's a Quran uniform that was born in Spanish.
Rigging sails and everything else up there and set at the right angle. You can let down to and tied off. Back. It's what you do today.
Hmm.
Come back a second.
He put the rowboat in the back of a wagon and made them row as the wagon went across the space. He didn't allow it. They had to row.
Didn't have flags on it.
I'm a DAR.
It's really different.
We also love
If they can come there,
Hello. Hello.
Stop and ask a question. Stop and ask anyone questions about this. Right.
Whoa.
River King.
Asking a lot of questions. Yeah.
You're up there going.
doctors. Okay, and then one more of those 10 was killed fighting with the conquistadors, and the very last was Spanish jewelry for their wrists and their ankles. Then they were given free Caribbean cruises so they could go down and work on the sugarcane plantations until they died. So in less than 200 years, every single Florida Indian went extinct, and we have no more Calusa here today. The Seminoles and the Miccosukee Creek that are here, those were the Indians that used to live in Georgia and Alabama and the Carolinas. But we had this president, good old Andrew Jackson, and he hated Indians. And he's the one that said the only good Indian is a dead Indian, and he set out to prove it too. He said every single Indian that lived on the east side of the Mississippi River had to leave everything their own, even their houses and their cows and their dogs and everything, and they had to walk to Oklahoma. And that was called the Trail of Tears because thousands of Indians died trying to walk to Oklahoma. But there were a few that's crazy. And so they escaped and they came down here to Florida. The U.S. cavalry was right behind them trying to capture them. And they came down here and they got with some escaped slaves and they hid out in the Everglades. And that's the way they kept from getting captured and sent to Oklahoma. And they're still here today because they never did surrender to the U.S. Army. So anyway, welcome to my little house. Now I know this looks like a chickee, like the Seminoles live in. Here's the difference. This is up on a mound. The Calusas built up on mounds to get them up out of the water. The Seminoles, when they came, they said, well, we're not sure about building mounds because that would make them easier to find by the Army, so they just put floors in there. So if you see one with a floor in it, then you know that's a Seminole instead of a Calusa-style house. Now the government kind of thing that they lived under, this was here, don't let this word scare you, a matrilineal society. You know what it means? The women were running the show. Woohoo! The girls owned the houses, and they owned all the clothes, and they owned all the food, and they owned all the children. Today, you get your daddy's name, and you live in your daddy's family. Back then, you would have gotten your mama's name, and you would have lived in your mama's family. And your daddy wouldn't even have raised you. Your mama's brothers, your uncles, would have been like your daddy and raised you and built your house and hunted food for you. Boy, it was different back then. But it worked. It worked for us for 20,000 years. Now, I got enough stuff out here to talk for days and days and days. So if you see something you want to know about, why don't you just point to it and I'll tell you about it. See anything? This one right here? Okay. If we decided to go to war, we would not take our bow and our arrows, because even a little person like you could kill somebody with a bow and arrow. That didn't prove you were very strong and brave. So in order to go against our enemies, we would take our war